Hello everyone, welcome to another video of learning Playwright from basics. So in the previous video we have discussed all the common web element methods we have, which are fill, check, and then we have uncheck, clear, inner text, click method. In this video we are going to continue learning the other methods which we have in the web element actions. Those are get attribute, is visible, is hidden, is unable, is disabled, is editable, and is checked. So let's see an example for each one of the methods which is mentioned here. So first we will start with get attribute method. So why do we use this method is that it gets the value of HTML attribute from the element. So when you read this particular explanation, you won't be able to understand it properly. So let me show you an real-time example. So for this, I have taken the real-time example of a website called godaddy.com. Okay, so we have a login page here. So I'll be adding the URL of this particular web page in the description. You guys can go and take that URL for your practice. Now, in which scenario we can make use of this method? I'll show you a perfect example. I'll inspect this username text field, and if you clearly observe here, so we have something called as area invalid, error message, class, ID, and then area required, type, and value. Along with that we have FD process ID, right? If you observe this clearly, the value attribute doesn't have any value. This is only the attribute name. For this particular attribute there is no value. So now what I'll do, I'm going to enter some value inside this username text field. So I want you guys to clearly observe this value attribute. Okay, so I'm going to enter the value as Rahul, and if you see here, it is clearly reflecting whatever the value which I have entered in the web element, that is getting added inside an attribute called value. Okay, so if I continue entering the rate gmail.com, you can see the same thing is getting reflected here. So this is where we can make use of get attribute method. So what we have to do here is, inside this get attribute method, we have to pass the key as value. Okay, so value is nothing but here it is an attribute name, and it will return what? Attribute value. Okay, we have to pass the attribute name and it will return the attribute value. So let's see an example. So for this example, I'm going to create a separate spec file and I'll give the name as element action 2.spec.ts. Okay, so now we have the same lines of code which we can use to navigate to the web page, and wait for 2 seconds. I'll paste those lines of code and then we have to close the brackets. Okay, so this time we are navigating to a different web page, right? So first things, we have to change the URL. Instead of our demo web page, so we have to navigate to godaddy.com. Then once after navigating to that web page, so we have to locate this element. I think we don't have any direct locators that we can use and locate using Playwright. So I'll go with CSS here. Copy this and we have to search for matching. For ID attribute, we can make use of a symbol called hash. And whenever you are writing this hash username, you can see I'm getting 1-of-1 matching. So directly I can use it. So come back to your script and then we have to write await page dot, we have to write locator, and inside single quotes we have to specify what it is. This is a CSS and I'm going to paste that value. Now if you don't understand this line, why we are writing this page dot locator and why we are writing this CSS and then this value, I would recommend you guys to go and check out the videos of the locators which we have discussed in the previous session. So already we have discussed all the different locators which Playwright provides: get by role, label, placeholder, text, alt text, title, test ID, and CSS and XPath. So I'll be adding the URL of this page in the description. In the description, you will find the link for all of this video. So I would recommend you guys to go and check out these videos first, and then you can continue with this example. Okay, so now let's come back, and what we have to do here is, for this particular element we have to enter the value first, right? So for that we have a method called fill, and inside this I'm going to enter test automation user. Okay, so this is what I'm going to enter in this. So once after filling that value, we have to fetch the value which we have entered to this attribute, and we have to make use of the get attribute method, and we have to pass this value. So now what I'll do, for the same line of code, I'll take the same line of code which we have used to locate the element, and then we have to make use of a method called get attribute. It is throwing an error. If you mouse over on that, so it will be asking you to pass the name in the format of string. Okay, so now we have to pass what value here. Okay, so this is the attribute name. I'm going to copy that attribute name and paste it here. What it will return? It will return the value which we have already entered in the element, right? So that value I'm going to store that in a variable. I'll give the variable name as username. I'm going to give the variable name as username and use camel case here to save all the variables. After that, I'm going to print that console dot log, and inside double quotes we have to pass the variable name. Save, and then see, once after performing these actions, I'm going to copy this and paste it here in the next line, so that we can see the execution, whether it is entering the value and all those things. Here I'm going to concatenate with a string saying that entered username. Okay, so that we can understand that it is printing the proper value or not. Save, and then we have to run this script, right? So for that, copy the path, copy the relative path, and then you have to write npx playwright test, paste the path, and you have to replace it with a forward slash, and for execution you have to write hyphen hyphen headed. Now let's observe the execution. It is navigating to the web page, and then okay, so we have to give allow access, I guess. After that, execution is completed, and if you see here, it is entering the username as test automation user. Now what I'll do, I'll say @gmail.com, save. Okay, I'll save these changes, and then again we will rerun the same script. Now this time it has to print test automation user @gmail.com, right? So let's see that. I think again it will ask for the permission, not sure. Let's see. Okay, still the web page is loading, and then it entered the value, close, and if you observe here, it is printing entered username as test automation user @gmail.com. So this is how you guys can make use of get attribute method. Hope this is clear for you. Let's see the next examples. We have some other methods called is visible, is hidden, is enabled, is disabled, is editable. See, all these methods are similar. Why do we use this method is visible? It will return true whether the element is visible on the web page. So return type will be boolean, true or false. Is hidden is also same. Is enabled is also same. If the element is enabled, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. If it is disabled, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So there will be some cases where you will come across, okay, where you should not allow the user to perform any actions on the elements. Example, click on a button unless he enters the value to the text field. So in those cases, you have to validate that whether that functionality is working or not. So you guys can make use of these two methods, is enabled or is disabled, based on the scenario. I'll show you an example of is visible, and all these methods will follow the same pattern. Okay. Now, is visible, what it will do, if the element is visible on the web page, it will return true. So for that, what we will do, we will try to locate this checkbox. Okay, so let me refresh this web page. Okay, we have to check what, whether this checkbox is visible in the web page or not. Okay, we have to verify that. Now I'll take my mouse cursor to this element, and if you see here, so again we have class, we have type, we have value, id, name, and all these things. So now if you see the Playwright locators which we have, so we have a role, label, placeholder, text, and all these things. And when you observe here, we don't have any option. Again we have to go with XPath, or we have to go with CSS. So this time I'll show you how you can use XPath. Okay, I'll copy this attribute value, and then we have to write /input, because it was there inside a input tag @id is equal to single quote value. How many matching we are getting here? We are getting 1 of 1 matching. So copy this entire value which we have. We will also call it as XPath expression, and then we have to locate it in a similar way. Now we have to write awake page dot locator, and inside double quotes we have to mention that we are making use of XPath. After that we have to paste that XPath expression. Okay, so once after this we have to make use of a method that is visible, right? And return type of this method is true. I'm going to call that method is visible, and if you see here, the return type of this is a promise boolean. It will return true or false. We have to store that in the variable, so I'm going to say it let, or we'll say checkbox, and save it. Now what I'll do, I'll print it. Okay, I'll simply print it. Inside console.log, I'm going to write checkbox visible, and here we have to pass the variable name. So if it is visible, it will print true, otherwise it will print false. Okay, so we don't want these lines of code, so I'll comment these lines, save, and then we'll execute this particular line of codes and observe how it is working. So it will navigate to the web page, and it won't take much time here. It will close. And if you see here, checkbox visible, it is returning true. Okay, this we can use it for assertion, which we will discuss in the upcoming videos. See, already we have discussed the basics of assertions in the previous video. So if you see here, we have already discussed how we can make use of these assertions to validate the page title and URL. So this is expect current URL should be equal to this, and we have already discussed about the soft assertion also. So the page title should be matching with the page title Facebook. So if you have not watched this video, I would recommend you guys to go and check this video first. Let's continue with the topic which we were discussing. Now I'm going to explain you guys the other method. See, discussing about these methods is just a waste of time. The functionality of these methods will be similar to is visible. So whenever you come across any scenario where you can use these methods, so you guys can use it in the same way. So the last method which we have, that is checked. So what this method will do, it will return if the checkbox or the radio button is already selected. So in which case we have to use this. Now observe this web page carefully. Okay, I'm going to refresh this web page. The moment when you navigate to this web page, the checkbox is already checked, right? This is already selected. Now we have to verify this case, okay, whether it is selected or not. In that case, we can make use of is checked, or in some other cases where you have to select this checkbox and you have to verify, yes, in that case also you can use that. Now let me show you how this method will work. Already we have located the checkbox in the previous example, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the same locator which we have used and then paste it here. we are going to make use of a method called isChecked. Return type of this method is boolean, and I am going to store that in a variable called let checkbox selected. Okay, I'll give the variable name as checkbox selected. See, we have to use proper naming for the variables that we have to follow. As of now, I'm not following those standards and all. I would recommend you guys to use that in your real-time projects and all. Now I'm going to make use of the same console.log, and here I'm going to paste checkbox selected, and here I'm going to pass the variable name. Copy and paste it. Now, as per the expectation, this checkbox should be visible and this checkbox should be selected. For the both cases also it should print true. And we are going to discuss, see here in this case we are just printing whether it is true or false, right? The same way, instead of printing those values, we can validate it using assertions that we will discuss in the upcoming video. Save, and then I'll run this same program. It will navigate to the web page, and then after a few seconds execution is closed and it is printing checkbox is visible, yes, true. Checkbox is selected, yes, true. So this is how we can make use of all the other web element methods which Playwright provides. So if you have understood this concept clearly, subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends, those who have to learn Playwright. This will motivate me to create more videos on these concepts. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.